I remember at one point in my own life, I was at a crossroads and I was being asked to do something which, I felt was not spiritually good for me, and we all, as we go through life, and as Amit was saying, till we find God, each one of us, our friends, well-wishers, we are all fallible. And so everyone can make mistakes, can make, bad judgment calls. So there's not to blame anyone. But like I said, I was asked being a very difficult thing. And I had a choice, that if I chose to go ahead with that, even though I knew inwardly it was going to go against my own nature, as Swamiji was saying in this reading, if I chose to go ahead with that, the status quo, so to speak, would be maintained. Everything would continue normally. There would be, everything would be familiar and comfortable, and I'd be in my comfort zone. But as fate would have it, if I chose to say no to what was being asked, it would just mean a total tumult in my life. And everything I had known till that point would basically, I'd have to start from ground zero. And, painful as it was for me, I decided, and it takes courage, which, as we grow on the spiritual path, we acquire that courage with God's grace. I said no. And I, later on, I realized, because when enough time passes, you see certain things better rather than when you're too close to a situation sometimes. And I realized that was inwardly the right thing to do. And it would have been spiritual death for me to, or a disaster certainly, if I had gone with that. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is, that when we think of the spiritual path and we are truth seekers, we are devotees, we are encouraged and we want to be always willing, to serve, to share, to do whatever is asked of us. But, also we have to balance that with an inner discrimination, because Swami says, especially when it is a question of a spiritual dharma, it's a bigger question. He said, and Master also said this, that the Guru doesn't want us to become yes men, which is to say, saying yes to everything blindly. And so it's a very delicate balance that we have to kind of, and like Swami says, no matter how out of step that puts you with other people, so it's a very fine balance, and each one of us, has to walk that line. We have to figure that out for ourselves. And it can seem difficult. And the topic for today, that we have, how to find one's duty. Really, it's all about that. But I don't want to talk on a mental level, because as devotees, we learn that our solutions, if we try to find our guidance and our solutions just logically, okay, is this my duty, is that my duty, that seems better, this career option looks better, you can get some place, you can find some answers, but it may not be your highest duty, it may not be your true duty. And so as truth seekers, as devotees, how do we find our duty, one's duty? And really the answer is actually very, very simple on one level. And the answer is just go to the source, which is to say that go to the divine, go to God, go to your Guru, if you have one, and seek your answers there. My own experience has been, and of course, this is not an easy thing to do, needless to say, especially if you don't have a guru in the body. It's not like you can pick up your mobile phone and dial guru and say, I am having this difficulty, what do I do? It doesn't work like that. It becomes subtle. But I have found this trick, which is, really the trick that all saints tell us, is that there is nothing, no answer, no solution, no guidance, no complex dilemma that God will not give you an answer to if you approach the divine with love. And really, that's all there is to it. That if we as devotees have spent enough time, cultivating that relationship with the divine, with the Guru, with the Divine Mother, And, that complete self-offering, just that constant remembrance, that constant devotion, always, as Yogananda ji said, to those who think me near, I will be near. If we have cultivated that, then like I said, there is nothing in this world that will be held from us. And we can, through that avenue, find the answers and find out what is our duty. And I thought I'll just give, a couple of small instances from my own life, how I've kind of experimented and played with this. And, some months back in January, I think it was, I felt this need, desire, whatever you might call it, but I felt to take a break and to take, longer than usual break. Often we take a seclusion or are encouraged to do for, let's say, 10 days or 2 weeks. But I just felt inwardly that, it would be good to take a slightly longer break, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But, as you can imagine, it wasn't without a little bit of anxiety, because it was something I had not done before. And there was a certain amount of, trepidation. And, well-meaning friends, dissuaded me, and they said, and giving me all the good logical reasons, there is no precedent for this, don't do it. But really, I went ahead and found a place in a small, Himalayan town, and I went there on retreat. But before I went, and this is the point I'm trying to make, that the process, not going with your own desires, but always checking in, going back to the source. So I often do this, I think I've shared this before, that I use this book, the Autobiography, as my constant companion, and I speak to Master through it, and thankfully Master speaks back to me many times through it. And so I put this question, that Master, this is, is this fine? There won't be any Guru Bhais, I know, but inwardly I feel this is the right thing. And, I'm going out into the wild like that, is it fine? And I opened a page, and usually, whatever line my eyes fall on, I take that as a sign, as something that is being told to me. And my eyes fell on this line and this passage from the Autobiography. He says, "Everywhere you go, even in a wilderness, you will find friends. Your lot to attract sincere souls is very good." This is, of course, Sri Yukteswar telling Master before he was leaving for America. So, with that little message, I went forward. But it was fascinating to me that how these words, sort of a blessing, came true. Because when I was there in this very nondescript town, I found friends, I found a place, almost like devotees, people who were even shy of charging, which is very unusual to find these days. And one day I walked into this restaurant to eat, and lo and behold, I find this altar of our gurus in that restaurant, right at the reception. And my eyes almost popped out. And I, just remembered this, you will find friends in the wilderness. And it was a Kriyaban, interestingly, an elderly lady, and who had met Swami Kriyananda many years ago, almost 10 years ago. And she was even, in fact, at that time, reading some books of his and telling me stories. And it was so charming, for me, just to watch this whole scene play out before my eyes. And she then later, invited some of us to her house, which was close by. And really, her house, it was a 3-story mansion, which was really just one big altar. Because, she was an artist, and she had, throughout the house, made paintings of Yogananda ji, of Christ, of Encinitas, of Lake Shrine, of different places of Master. And it was just like very sweet, very sweet. And interestingly, while I was there for a total of 3 months, I also realized later that 15 of my friends, devotee friends, had visited, And so I just, that was a very sweet from Yogananda ji saying that, well, if I will be with you, but if you will be with me, which is the relationship we have with the divine. And I remember towards the end of my stay there, again, because as truth seekers, when we are trying to tune into the Guru, after a point, you don't want to, go off the map. You don't want to, even in small things, do your own will. So you try to always ask, and that is how we find the answers. So I had this thought, before, just a little while before I was about to leave that place, that I said, Master, I want to go to Kolkata. I have this desire to, because I had, and especially for Durga Puja, because some years back, I had gone there, and it was just a beautiful, charming experience, very devotion filled, and I said, I'd like to go again. But I said, please tell me, would you like me to go there? And again, I prayed and I opened the book, and then this one came up, this line, and he says, after spending happy weeks in Kashmir, I was forced to return to Bengal for the fall term of Serampore College. And I think short of saying go to Bengal, I think this was something he was telling me. I wasn't in Kashmir, but I had been in the Himalayas and I had been spending happy weeks there. And he was saying perhaps, and also Durga Puja happens in the fall, in October. And so I again, took that as a sweet, response to that question. But really, this is, and I'm sure we all have experienced or experimented with this in our own life. But really, as Christ said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Which is to say, when we make God our very first priority, then Master said there is nothing He will not help us with the smallest details. Another thing Swami Kriyananda said, which can be helpful for us when we are trying to figure out sometimes, what am I supposed to do? What is my duty? He said, inspiration comes when we are in motion. Very important. Inspiration comes when we are in motion, which is to say that, sometimes we can get so mental about things or worried, this or that, what do I do, brooding about it and sitting really and thinking about it, and that does not help. We have to take one step and put out the energy and know, like I said, that if you are sincere and if you have devotion, even if you take a wrong step, and Master said so, he said, God will never let you go too far out. And, He will bring you back, or He'll close a door, or He'll open a door. And He will bring you back to what is your duty, to what is that you're trying to accomplish, to do. So keep that in mind, that inspiration comes when we're in motion. Take a step, maybe don't take a very big step, but take a step, be courageous, and have faith. And have that dialogue ongoing. Don't forget about the Guru after you take that step. Bring him back again and again. And so finally, I just want to end with this thought that, think big and dream big for God and Gurus and do big things. Because, that is really the mark of a disciple wanting to offer back everything to the Guru. And expand our horizons sometimes when we're, thinking of our life, and not trying to always go with the established, channels and the set paths. Be courageous. And if, you find that other people around you are perhaps, you don't have their approval, you don't have their support, then, like Swami said, go on alone. He wrote that song from Tagore's Ekla Cholo, go on alone. Walk like a man, even though you walk alone. Why court approval once the road is known? Let come who will, but if they all turn home, the goal still awaits you. Go on alone. Many blessings.
We just add a few thoughts onto that topic. Gaurav just mentioned about Guru calling, this is probably not related to the topic, but I will share it anyway. I was in Dehradun visiting a saint, and he called me, and it actually came on my phone, Swami Gyanananda calling, and I was absolutely not prepared. Thankfully, it was a very short conversation. He said, this evening you come for chai. I said, okay. And that's what the conversation. But after that, as he was saying, I said, I should be more prepared. He's calling like that. And I spent a lot of time, but he never called after that. So yeah, be careful. Be ready. If Guru calls, you need to have prepared some kind of a conversation with him. So, Master used this word art of living a long time ago. I don't mean to say that's our term. Please return it back to us that way. It is the only way life could be. Art of living. What is it that makes something art as opposed to science? We have our dear friend Hari here. One time I called him, you are an engineer. He got offended. I never realized why would he get offended. It's a very respectable profession. But he is architect. No? There's an art element in that. I think he was more emphasizing on that rather than demeaning the lesser mortal engineers like me. But in art, what is it that something is art and something is science? Is that there is a dynamism in art, isn't it? And that's why, in fact, Swami talks about it in one of some of his books also, where artists have understood that aspect of life. You see, like the life is also dynamic in nature. Life requires a sense of space to flourish. You also see that the artist, he was talking about artist studio he went, you need space. And literally you need physical space, but you also need mental space. You can't go with a prejudiced thing. If you asked any artist, what is that you are going to paint today, or what is it that you are going to sing today, they'll say, we will see. And it is not that they are trying to hide it from you and surprise. It is true. It is a process of evolution. You go there and then participate in that process of creation. Art of living. And that's why we also, as a yogi, we're artists. Our canvas is not necessarily painting or a process, for example, music alone, but every part we need to find a way to make it into an art form. Gaurav was talking about decision making, and he also talked about that. So very recently when Ishani was here, she also was going through the same thing. And just before that, we had this video shooting, which is about say yes to life. And we had this, Gyana Mata also said, no, say yes and make it snappy. Now she also went through the same thing, which is like there was a choice and absolutely she didn't want to do it. Not like that. She felt it is not the right thing to do. But now here it is, saying yes to life. Gyana Mata is saying say yes. How do you say no when you have those two teachings there? Anyway, we talked about it, and then she felt that no, she has to say no. So we thought maybe now our motto is say no to life. That didn't feel quite right, isn't it? But so it stayed with me for quite some time, I think with her too. And as I think Gaurav alluded to that point also, many a times when we live life more a scientific way, not an artistic way, we make like a big algorithm, right things, wrong things, preferable things, non-preferable things. And in that, making a choice also becomes a very, very big deal. So, when Master is talking about say yes to life, what was he talking about? Whatever, was he necessarily saying that any time somebody asks you, you have to say yes? That doesn't seem right at all, isn't it? But he had actually given a hint there as well. When Swami had this kind of a question, when Master said, you have to give me your unconditional obedience, I said, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Not that Swami wanted to be disobedient to Master. He said, like, if I don't feel it inside, to which Master gave him a promise that it is life which will ask you through me to do something. And Swami was happy with that. And that is precisely what Master talks about when he says, say yes to life. If life asks you something, give everything. So for a moment, if you leave the choices aside, see, choice is a momentary decision. Maybe you spend like weeks or months making that decision, but once the choice is made, how we live is where the saying yes comes far bigger than anything, isn't it? Something for you to ponder. I was part of a startup before I came here, and I liked the energy there. Everybody was very passionate to do it. It's a very small group, around 8-10 were there. But the most profound, brilliant guy was the founder. Similar age as me. Nobody understood what he spoke. So we were very afraid whenever he would call, because he's going to give us an assignment which I won't understand, and I still have to do it. So we had an understanding. He will call, everybody will pay attention, so that then collectively we can figure out what he would do. And but we all wanted, so everybody was there by choice. They wanted to participate, they wanted to help. So John would call, Amit, come. I say, yes, John. And then he will, in extremely cryptic language and minimal words, he will explain something, this is what I plan to do, this is the vector. And I'm listening, yes, yes. And I know, but not only me, but everyone else is also listening because he doesn't talk much. And we make an attempt, and then he says, okay. And then I go, and I right away go to the coffee place. And then everybody who was around, they also come there and we discuss, do you understand anything he said? No. And then we go through this process, and many times it has to be repeated. And even John knew that this is not going to happen in one go. We were trying to figure out, but there was one thing which never altered. It would take like days, sometimes weeks, sometimes we'll make big, huge mistakes. My English vocabulary become better because I will submit something and then he will write. The formula still looks wonky. I thought this must be a praise. I said, and my friends were Chinese, so they said, yeah. But then both of us, we Googled and it wasn't. I said, oh boy, we need to go to the coffee machine again. No matter what the phrases were, but what remained is, whenever he would call, we would go with the same enthusiasm because everybody wanted to participate to the best of their capacity. That was a big yes. Never wavered from any of us. Time it could be our misunderstanding, but we were always present. A response was always there. Gaurav says, Guru calls, you answer, isn't it? Life gives you an opportunity, you have to say yes. In the reading of self-confidence, he talked about, don't worry about other opinions. Just be true to yourself. But many times within ourselves, we also have a lot of preferences, isn't it? What stops us from just saying yes? Something we do things, we say, oh, I prefer to this. This is the time when I feel alive, isn't it? We say that I like to do this part of my life because that's when I really feel energy. This other thing, I don't know. If master wants, I will do it, but that there is also no energy in that. What are we doing there is precisely that preferences, our conditioning. See, life is going to happen one way or the other through different bodies in the way it is supposed to be. What is our choice is to tune in, and whatever is happening, adjust our preferences to that. We have a choice of, are we listening to life or are we listening to our preferences? And we can listen to our preferences and keep saying, oh, one day, then it becomes one day, when this phase is over. Does it work? No. It is saying, putting blocks, even like we use this word freedom a lot lately in our classes and talks. It's also like the freedom is also boxed in a particular way. This is the way I'm going to get freedom. Well, freedom is here knocking, I'm here. No. I'm only going to go this way and fix it. No. Life is going to reveal things to you. It is our choice to tune into that. The only thing which stops in between these two is our conditioning. The way we perceive things, what are our preferences, what is the basis on which we are looking at things for. But if we can learn to look at things for what they are, it's a very simple statement, we have heard it many times. And the moment we do that, we feel alive. Anytime when we see, I like something, is because there are no resistances. All layers are there, you're open to whatever is going to flow through this one. And when you understand this principle, we say yes. We say yes. There's a story from the life of, I don't remember his previous name, but he later was called as Padmapada. You probably know this story, but I will tell this again, very relevant. So the Guru was on the other side of the river and all the disciples on this side, including Padmapada. And Guru said, I'm going to do a test. So Guru all of a sudden from there, and he acted as if there's something he has immediately want to tell his disciple. And he says, come. Disciples were very enthusiastic to know what it is. And that come, they wanted to respond to that come also. but they don't know how. There was no boat, it was like all river. They says, come. And then they asked, but Guruji, how? And all those kind of questions started happening. I says, forget it. Padmapada, you come. To that, Padmapada responded with unwavering yes. What did he do? He just started running. And as that story says, the moment his feet touched the water, a lotus leaf appeared, supported his feet. Then he continued, then the other leaf appeared. And he continued and he reached to the other side. And in fact, that's why this disciple, whose name was something else, was named as Padmapada. So there's one very crucial point. One of the very crucial points of this story is what? It's not that he knew this is what is going to happen. We sometimes look at this story as once I have my own clear understanding, I will just easily walk because I know the lotus will come. No, I would look at it in a different way. While Padmapada, he had no idea. Only thing he had in mind is, my Guru is calling. Life is calling to me through this Guru. Am I going to say yes? Or am I going to listen to these guys? Meaning, this conditioned existence, problems, how do I fix it? He chose to listen to the life. And he didn't do it, that was not a one moment decision, this is what I'm going to do, and henceforth and forever. Every feet he had to make that choice. Every feet he had to renew that conviction that my Guru is calling, I am going to go for it. And that's why every feet there was a new lotus. Every feet was supported. Life is going to be spontaneous. It's going to be revealed one step at a time. And if we look at nature all around us, you will see life is like that. You go to a mango tree and then start asking, hey, mango tree, difficult time is coming. What's your plan? Mango tree is not going to say, really? Let me put all the mangoes in my pocket. No, you guys don't get any mangoes this time. What would it do? And all of a sudden now we go, mango tree, things are fine now. Things are getting better. You can relax. And all of a sudden, okay, there are the mangoes. What does the nature do when difficult time comes and simple time comes? Are there anything like that for difficult time or simple time for them? Maybe yes, seasons we can see. But what is that inherently that mango tree is doing differently, for that matter, any tree, any being on this existence? He said, it's okay. All I have to do is the same thing. Can I do something else? No. But every moment of her existence, she is equally alive. In a very different forms, in a very different shades, but she is equally alive. And we are the most precious, the most advanced creation of this creation. We have the capacity, we're not separate from nature. The faculty which tells the mango tree what to do also exists within us in a much more profound capacity. But we also have a choice to tune into that capacity or tune into the conditioned existence. We live in a very special country, India, where is two extreme levels of dichotomy exist big time, isn't it? We call it spiritual, but at the same time, there's a lot of condition. You go to every family and they say, oh, this is how things are in our... We go to different regions, every region has their own culture. But underneath all of it, the goal of all of it is to celebrate freedom. We have rituals for different seasons. We have food for different seasons. And I don't mean in a proud way. Every country probably will have something or the other as well. But the point is, what life brings, we find a joy in that. We adjust our circumstances because this is our canvas. We can only paint our canvas with what we have, what is there. Even when we meditate, sometimes we say, oh, there is no peace. It's all right. What you have is what we work with. And in that, we learn the art of living. We have to be alive now. We can't be alive tomorrow. The only moment we can be truly alive and fully alive, which is what our true duty, the highest duty could be, is to live, leaving our preferences, our conditions aside, and what song that God wants to play through this body, let it go, and that will come note by note. We recently did Lahari Mahashay's birthday and Mahasamadhi, and then one of his, we said like Lahari Mahashay was also Kabir, and one of Kabir's doha, Suno Sadhu, Sadhu is seeker, he calls, and he says, he ends that doha saying, Agam Pantha Ekasureka, meaning the path of the brave is pathless. What is happening tomorrow is a very mind question. You keep walking, the path will be revealed. A lotus will come underneath our feet. As Gaurav was also talking about, that is the direction you shall be supported by the providence. But that will only happen when with that firm courage, firm conviction, firm faith, we put that feet into the unknown.